Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas says executive orders aren't enough to solve the migrant crisis, but at least he's finally admitting there's a crisis.
Madeline Rivera is in Washington with more. Good morning, Maddie.
Good morning, Carly and Todd. Republicans have been pushing the president to use executive authority on the border. Even some Democrats have signaled they'd be open to that action. He signed a flurry of them shortly after taking office in 2021, several of which were on immigration to reverse former President Trump's policies. So critics say, why not use that option again now?
Look, the current president of the United States is carrying out a lawless regime. They're doing it on all the issues you just talked about, whether it's border or whether it's ignoring the student loans in the Supreme Court. He said it. He's doing it defiantly.
The Biden administration has been reportedly weighing some executive action, though it's unclear what that might look like. Regardless, they argue whatever the president does unilaterally will likely be met by legal roadblocks.
We consider options at all times. That's the responsibility of good government. But an administrative action is no substitute for an enduring solution. When we take administrative actions, as we have done a number of times, we are challenged in court. Legislation is the enduring solution.
The administration is continuing its push for Congress to act. A bipartisan bill that included stricter provisions at the border failed to pass the Senate last month after several Republicans opposed it. And the president is leaning into that issue, trying to place the blame on the GOP during a trip to Brownsville, Texas last week. A Fox News poll shows 81% of voters blame Congress for what is happening at the border, and 72% blame the president, giving some credence to the White House's strategy. Still, this is a major political liability for the president, with 41% of voters saying the situation along the southern border is an emergency, up from 34% in December. Adding to all of this, the former chief of U.S. Border Patrol says he never spoke with President Biden during the nearly 2 years he served under him.
I've never had one conversation with the president or the vice president for that matter. And so I was the chief of the Border Patrol. I commanded 21,000 people. That's a problem.
Chief Raul Ortiz retired in May 2023.
All right.
Carly and Todd.
Madeline Rivera live for us in Washington. Maddie, thank you. Let's bring in Fox News contributor Joe Concha. Joe, Chief Ortiz was Border Patrol chief when there were 15,000 Haitian migrants under the bridge in Del Rio. He was also the chief during the false whipping allegation. So the lack of communication there is notable. Also notable, and I'd love to get your thoughts on both of these things, is 60 Minutes covering this illegal immigration crisis, when under the Trump administration, I'm sure a segment like this would have been accused of being anti-immigrant.
All great points, Carly. And yeah, welcome to the party, pal, as far as 60 Minutes finally getting around to this story 3 years into this administration. Look, guys, this is absolutely devastating. And that ain't hyperbole to this Biden-Harris campaign. It will be fascinating in the most craptastic of ways to hear the patently awkward Karine Jean-Pierre handle that question when she's asked about it. Look, as we just saw, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris over and over again have said that the crisis that is a catastrophe at the U.S. southern border, they take it very seriously. Well, how could you possibly take this crisis seriously when you haven't spoken to the Border Patrol chief for more than 2 years? And the fact that, this was shared on 60 Minutes, to your point, Carly, absolutely got the attention of the White House communications team, because they can't just point to some sort of right-wing media conspiracy when CBS News is anything but right-wing. Make no mistake, the border and immigration will decide the 2024 election. And if this election were held today, Donald Trump would win by an electoral landslide based on the numbers we've been seeing over the last couple of months, Todd.
Let's do more numbers now. A New York Times poll, a new one, 46% of Hispanic voters favor Trump compared to the 40% who support Biden. Joe, in the 2020 election, Biden beat Trump with Hispanics by 21 points. You're the messaging expert. What does it say about this Biden administration that they completely misread the room as to what their open border policies would mean to Hispanics? I think they thought, oh my God, this gets us 100% of the Hispanic vote. And the Hispanics are saying, we don't like this, Joe.
27-point swing. It really is incredible, Todd. My relatives came by way of Spain and by Cuba, and they came here legally through New York. And I can only imagine what many Hispanics are thinking and feeling as far as seeing their jobs that they once had being taken away to cheaper labor by people who are not supposed to be here or entered the country illegally. They see sanitation and education and police forces being cut because the budgets can't handle all these illegal migrants in places like New York City, so the money is being allocated to them instead of to the communities that they help build. So that is exactly why that number is where it is, and it's exactly why, again, if this election were held today in places like Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, that Donald Trump would probably win those states because the Hispanic vote and the black vote is more and more either switching to Donald Trump or they're just going to stay home or vote for a third-party candidate, guys.
All right. Well, the president is taking it slow this week as he prepares for his State of the Union address on Thursday. He's going to be at Camp David until tomorrow with no public events on his calendar today. Then he's going to deliver the State of the Union before a couple campaign events heading into the weekend. Then he's back at the White House on Sunday. And Joe, we just got some new information on the State of the Union address that just came out within this hour. And White House Communications Director Ben LeBolt says that they're not just going to be relying on the president to deliver their message. They're also going to be fanning out aggressively and sending sending senior officials to the White House. The senior officials will be there, and then people from radio and TV will be doing interviews with them. Could be a good strategy, but it also could be, some people may make the argument that they're relying on other people to deliver the president's message for him. Just about 10 seconds remaining to you, Joe.
Sure. No, he should be on a media tour. Instead, he'll be, I guess today's a vacation. This whole presidency has been a vacation. This looks horrible, this schedule, but it always seems to look horrible. He's just not working hard for the American people, guys. It's that simple.
KJP's going to say, oh, he's just prepping. He's been prepping for a while. Joe, thanks.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.